Good evening and welcome to Friday evening, our Lenten retreat on the 27th of February. Good to have your company at this hour. And let us just begin by just taking a breath or two and just relax. And as we relax, let us use the gift of free will and invite the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, to come upon us and to guide our hearts during this time of Lent. Let us just listen to the music just for a minute or two. And we pray the prayer to the Holy Spirit. Breathe on us, O breath of God, fill us with life anew, that we might love what thou dost love, and do what thou wouldst do. Breathe on me, O breath of God, fill me with life anew, that I may love what thou dost love, and do what thou wouldst do. Amen. And as we take a deep breath, we bless this time. And in our out-breaths, we bless the I Am presence within us. And as we breathe in again, we bless one another here. And in our out-breath, we bless the love we share together, the love of God. And now relax and experience the love of our Father, Mother God, reaching down to each one of us and communicating with our heart. The heart is the gateway to our soul, and the soul is the gateway to God. Be still now. Be still and become aware that we are in the presence of God, that we are a beloved child of God. Experience that peace now, the peace of God. And as we relax, we come to that inner knowing that all is well, that all is well within us. The moment we surrender our heart to God in service to love, in service to peace. So let the Lord Christ reach down and touch us now and speak to our hearts. And our first reflection this evening is about obeying God. Sounds a very fierce command, obeying God. Well, let's just reflect on the words. One of the most dreadful stories in the entire Bible is the one the ancient Israelites called Akida. Well, we shared that with you last night on the sacrifice of Abraham and his son. And it was most unpleasant. And it caused many a lot of distress, for they felt uncomfortable that Abraham would be asked to sacrifice his only son. But that's what God asked him to do. So what is our God asking you and me to do tonight? We discovered in that reflection yesterday evening about the word obedience to God. And obedience literally means to listen to God. To listen to God. How beautiful is that? When we say we are obedient to God, what we're saying, I am listening to the voice of God. Speak to my heart, my teacher. In this little book of Lent, many of the world's great spiritual teachers like Desmond Tutu and Henry Nouwen and Timothy Radcliffe and others share some beautiful reflections with us. Well, tonight we have Heather Ward, who is a teacher of English and the author of Gift of Self and Giving Yourself Away. She also lectures on prayer and spirituality. And this evening, the reflection is on the wilderness experience. And those of us on the spiritual path experience the wildness of heart. As Christians, I think we perhaps need to accept that we are always on a route to God, which may pass through the desert. We dare not live on starvation rations. By this I mean that we need to be feeding continually on truth, on doctrine, so that we are not living solely according to our feelings, our choices, our way of understanding the gospel. For some of us, this may involve concentrating our attention on the basic truths about God, a God who is creator, Father, Mother, Redeemer, Lover, especially emphasizing perhaps those which we find most difficult emotionally. The need is to allow God to be greater than our powerful feelings. For me, at stages in my life when psychological and emotional difficulties have been uppermost, this has been a matter of directing reading, thinking and praying towards this one aspect of God in an openness of mind and heart, which consents, as it were, to its truth. When we have such difficulties, we can often find that beneath those very experiences is a powerful resistance to the idea. And interestingly, we don't like God as creator because we don't like the implications of being a creature. We can't accept God as Father because we take a dim view of fathers. And here, I must be honest, I had a real problem with coming close to God the Father. Even as a young nursing monk, I found it really traumatizing, even in training as a monk, to connect with God, my Father. And I guess that was rooted in my childhood, from childhood experiences of a father who was brutal, beautifully looking, an amazing voice, and to everybody who didn't really know him as a dad, they thought the sun shone out of his feet. But for those of us at home, we seen a different man. He was a tyrant, a bully, and he had no parenting skills. Sadly, he's dead now, and I loved him dearly, but he didn't know how to love. He was thoroughly spoiled by his family. He came from a very well-connected Dublin family, Irish family, who'd been to university. He was spoiled, the best of everything. But the one thing he didn't have was patience. Patience with himself. But I guess he too was a victim of abuse. And then he went on to abuse his children. And being the eldest of those children of 9, I guess you could say I bore the brunt to protect the little ones. So I had a fear of my dad, especially when he came in bladdered or too much Guinness. And then he could get quite stroppy and difficult and get us out of bed. And then he would beat us. So my connection with God as Father took many, many years of healing. And now I see God not just as Father, but as a Father, Mother God. So I can connect with what the author is saying. During one period of darkness, for example, she says, I discovered that God's absence resulted from an unwillingness to let God love me, to let God be love. I couldn't cope with a gift I hadn't earned because it was humiliating, belittling. For me, the message behind being loved was about my worthiness, my incapacity to give anything of value. To be loved unconditionally was for me to be deprived of any human dignity. And once I realized that there was also a gap between my mind and my feelings. Intellectually, I saw that this idea was wrong-headed and of course distorted. While emotionally I still felt new, and it was true. No amount of argument or persuasion had any power in this situation. It was my feelings which needed re-educating. So I immersed myself as far as possible in brooding upon God as love, in scripture, in accounts of Christians' experience in my own life, in a willingness to surrender my own view of love, in a willingness to allow God love me. And in prayer I could only ask him to teach me his meaning of love and offer him a willingness to learn afresh. And I guess that's for most of us, of my generation and before me. Certainly I have found again and again that our only way through this kind of impasse is to foster within some readiness, however faltering, to surrender to God, our often cherished and distorted ideas and images, by meditating on his truth in a way which says, Lord, I want to believe this. I want to know it with my whole being. I don't want to be stuck in myself and my reactions. Teach me what it means. And Heather says we cannot lay claim to salvation on account of our faith, hope and love, but only on account of the need they have expressed within us. For myself, My survival kit boils down to the advice Walter Hilton, a 14th century spiritual guide, gave to the pilgrims on their spiritual journey to Jerusalem, that is, to Jesus. Repeat, I am nothing, I have nothing. I neither seek nor desire anything but the love of Jesus. And you may want to follow on with this by reading something from Scripture. Psalm 42 is a beautiful psalm. My soul thirsts for God, the living God. And Heather shares a prayer with us. Lord, within us and around us, beneath us and above us, open our hearts to love you. Open our ears to listen to you. Open our tongues to declare you. For you are our Maker and Redeemer, the God of truth, love, and justice. Let us reflect on those words. Just for a few moments, let us be still and embrace all that we are as a child of God, a child of a loving Father and Mother God. And just as I was reflecting there, I felt a real strong presence of the Father God asking me to reflect on the prodigal son and this prodigal son's loving Father. You may be familiar with the story of the prodigal son. He had two sons, the father. One stayed at home to look after his elderly father, very well to do, obviously a man of substance, but the youngest son was a bit of a rebel. He wanted his inheritance to go and squander it, I guess on the flesh pots of Egypt, debauchery, sensuality, have a great time. His money ran out, and he ended up caring for pigs. And he ended up sleeping with the pigs. And then one day it dawned on him about his father's house, where his elder brother was, where there were servants, all finely dressed in beautiful clothes, and a loving father. And swallowing his pride, he decided to come out of the pigsty and return home. And the father was sitting on his veranda. Imagine the scene now, picture the scene. His father was old and infirm now. And usually after dinner he would sit on the veranda, admiring the sunset with his elder son and some of the servants. And in the very distance, he could see something moving, and though his eyes were failing him, he could see a blot on the landscape moving. And the servants were concerned, thinking it might have been a trespasser or a robber. So they were alerted to a possible robber come to steal from them. But the father had this gut feeling, no, it's not a robber, it's not a thief, it's my son. And the old man picked up his robes and ran to meet his son. And in running to meet his son, the son seen his father running towards him, an older man, frail. So the son ran to his father. And when they came together, the father was ecstatic with joy. There were tears in his eyes that his son, whom he thought was lost, is now found. And though he smelt of being in a pigsty, the father didn't mind his robes being sullied and tarnished with the smell and dirt of the pigs. The father was ecstatic to see his son. And the father shouts to his elder brother, kill the fatted calf, let us celebrate. My son who was lost is found. The elder brother was jealous. Why kill the fatted calf? Why not kill another calf? And the father was getting angry with the elder son. But the elder son, but father, I've been faithful to you. I haven't run away from home and squandered my inheritance like he has. And yet you killed the fatted calf for him and not for me. And the father said, but son, I have you always here with me. Your brother was lost and he's now found. Isn't that a good reason to celebrate? And when that was explained to me a few years ago, it was the catalyst in me realizing that God the Father is indeed a loving Father. And our Father, Mother God runs to us. Yes, runs to us, sends us friends to speak with us, touches the hearts of numerous people to commune with us, even invites the messengers of God to speak to us in our dream state. And not many are willing to listen. Are you listening? Our Father, Mother God is calling you home to your heart, to listen to that inner voice that calls you to love and to be loved. To be loved by a selfless Father God, who is Mother also. So let us reflect on those words. And the prayer of Saint Francis to his brothers reads, holy obedience puts to shame all natural and selfish desires. It mortifies our lower nature and makes it obey the Spirit and our fellow man. Obedience subjects a man to everyone on earth, and not only to men, but to all the beasts as well, and to the wild animals, so that they can do what they like with him as far as God allows them. Amen. So let us just now collect our thoughts as we bring our short Lenten retreat to a close, and remember, the Father, Mother, God is calling for you and me to come and receive the pearl of great price, to receive abundant blessings from God. Are you willing to receive? Are you willing to be still and give a few minutes each day to just sit in the presence of love and in the silence, the language of love? Allow the Father, Mother, God bless you with the benediction of abundance, with inner peace, and with joy. Be still now. Be still. And remember you are loved, that you were called by name. You were carved on the hand, the palm of God's hand, and he breathed the very breath of his love into your being. And I thank you for being here. And may God bless you and keep you safe and well till we meet again. Namaste. Shalom. Inshallah paxet bonum. OmShanti. Solo di caritas. Salam alaikum. And may the peace of all that is sacred to you alienate your heart from self and empower you reclaim your divinity as a co-creator of God. God bless you.